Hi, everybody. It is 12 o'clock on the third Saturday of the month, except it's not really. We changed the date this month. Um, and we're here. I'm Nancy Kelly, and we're ready to do our monthly training presentation for ESRA's foster homes. Today's topic is impeccable transport, safe, secure, and pleasant for everyone. You can see we changed our venue a little bit. We're going to do some demonstrations today, so I wanted to set it up so that we could have some crates and kind of pretend that we're transporting a dog, and so we'll get to that. So thank you for coming. As always, put your questions in the comments on Facebook, and at the end of the presentation, I will do my very best to address all of your questions. Hopefully, there's some things that you can learn today. So let's get started. Transporters that do that job as volunteers for ESRA are sometimes the first contact, the first trainers, the first source of information to a newly rescued dog about what his future is going to look like, and about that newly rescued dog to the other members of ESRA. His foster home, his adopter later, all the other volunteers that are going to have something to do with it, the other transporters, because sometimes there are many legs to this. So what you do and what the dog does when he's with you matters, because you are right now creating his future. So it's important. So let me define transport. Transport is that essential volunteer task of getting rescued dogs from shelters or wherever they happen to be into ESRA's program, into their foster home. As I said, sometimes it's getting them to another transporter to go to cover another leg of that transport trip. Sometimes one dog needs a ride. Sometimes two or more dogs need rides. When we announced this presentation on Facebook, I saw some comments about fosters who wanted to help new dogs learn to ride in the car happily, since transporting dogs in cars is a big part of dogs' lives in many cases. So throughout the presentation, I'm going to address both of these, teaching dogs to ride in cars, to be in crates and so forth, and also the whole big picture of transport, which is getting a dog from where he starts out to where he needs to be to participate in ESRA's program that we have for him and start his new future. So of course, the ideal situation in every case is to train dogs to do the things that will be part of their lives in the tiniest baby steps possible. So believe it or not, we can do this during a transport, because you'll hear me say throughout this presentation, a recipe for failure is to get in a hurry and to say, oh my gosh, we just have to get this dog. That's never going to be a good plan. So now the reality is sometimes we do have limited time, but we can make the most of all the things that we're learning about behavior and training of dogs and whether they're comfortable with the situation to do our best in that limited amount of time without letting ourselves get out of control and in a hurry. So slow is fast. So let's think about the things that dogs need to know to be able to have a good trip. They need to know that being near a car is fun. So we can do that a little bit during transport. We can walk them by cars and say, oh, look, a car, here's some treats. Yay, cars, touch the car, give them a treat. Just play little games with them as you're walking to your car, or take a little extra time and do it. Opening and closing car doors is fun. Oh, we open the car, yay, that's fun, and we just walk on by. We close the door, we walk on by. We give treats when we open and close doors, right? So every little bit that we do is making that dog's experience better when you actually put him in the car. We can teach them that treats come from inside the car. Open the door, look at that. There's some treats sitting right on the little threshold of the door or on the floor, on the ground next to the car. If the dog offers to jump in the car, great. You got ahead of the game. That's perfect. If give him some treats, say thanks, bud, and then invite him out and give him some treats. If it's the wrong car and you're just playing with other cars, even better, because now he's had a good experience, and when he gets in the actual car he's going to get in, he's going to have a good time, and he's volunteering to do it. So it makes a big difference. If he doesn't jump in, it's also great. Thanks for the information, dog. So this is what it looks like. Dogs have to be comfortable with step 1 before we move on to step 2, right? And we humans are here to set things up at a level the dog can handle. And you have to be able to tell if the dog's comfortable. So that's why we have our dog reading course online. Please take advantage of that if you haven't. It's going to help you in reading every dog you come across. Because all this is the basis of all training, by the way. And one of the big problems we have is every time you go get a new dog, it's a new dog that you don't know. So you need to get to know another dog really quickly. And so your skills have to be in place and ready to go. So let's look at, by the way, all of this stuff that I just mentioned can happen over a long period of time with your foster dog at home who needs to learn to happily get in the car and go fun places, right? With transport, we're going to compress it into a shorter period of time, but we're going to try to do as much as we can to help that dog feel comfortable. So let's go ahead and look at transport of a newly rescued dog. And remember, this may be that dog's first ride in a car, which is actually pretty cool because you can make it all happy and positive for him. Or worse, his previous ride in a car might have been awful, and you're doing some recovery right now. So I want to mention what our goals are, because we have to define what we want, right? Our number one goal of a transport is to start the dog's new future out right, with only good experiences, no bad ones. The dog is the judge of that. And we want to let transport be the beginning of recovery, not something else to recover from. Number 2 goal is training begins the moment the dog sees you, so you are this dog's first trainer. And part of starting out right with a new dog is preventing development of undesirable behaviors during transport, during this transition, right? So what are those undesirable behaviors? Number 1 is let's keep all 4 feet on the floor at all times. From the moment you see a dog, hands up and being on your back legs is never a good plan. It leads to arousal. It probably already is aroused. And what we want is calm relaxation at all steps of the way. We want the dog to have a good experience with every little thing. Oh, a car? Yay, cars are good. Somebody's walking by? That's good. Another dog? That's good. Treat for every one of those things. If he'll take them, keep offering them. And no undesirable behaviors. What are those? They include the really bad stuff, like the dog biting you when he feels threatened. They include a dog completely shutting down because he's so scared already. He was moving a little bit, but we didn't play our cards right, and he shut down, and now he's curled into a ball and won't move. All that's undesirable, and we have ways of preventing those things. And then, have you noticed that I haven't mentioned in the goals that we need to get somewhere? That's because the first thing is for the dog to have a great experience and for good training to be in place. And the third goal is to get where you're going. So think about that. Better to wait till another day than for the dog to have a bad trip. Slow is fast. And I'll tell you a little story. Every time I get in the car to go somewhere, guess what my number one goal is? To get there? No. My number one goal is to stay alive, healthy, and uninjured. Number 2 goal is for every other driver on the road to also be alive, safe, and uninjured. Number 3 goal is that I get where I'm going. Because why do I care if I get there if an ambulance had to bring me and I have internal injuries? So this is important stuff that you're doing, and you can have a really big effect on this dog's future. So I'm not going to talk a lot about what to bring because I talked about that in our starting out right presentation. But it depends on how far you're going. You may have a big bag of stuff or you may have a small bag of stuff. But you got to have your cleanup supplies, extra bedding, and so forth. We're going to talk a lot more about the things that directly affect the dog. So crates and crate covers, you'll see that in a minute. You see I have 2 crates here. Both crates have nice fluffy beds in them that are comfortable, and that, the fluffier and thicker the bed is, the more insulated the dog is from temperature changes in the floor of the vehicle, depending on, where they are in the vehicle, and also those vibrations coming through the bottom of the vehicle. It's going to make him have a better ride. The thicker, think Princess and the Pea, get a lot of mattresses in between the dog and the pea, which is actually vibrations and temperature changes. So that's really important. A crate cover, we're going to talk about that. And of course, all your cleanup stuff. Extras of everything, because you don't know what's going to happen. Leashes, harnesses, collars, bring extras. And so we're moving on to safety. So I want to just talk about one of the first things you're going to do. You want to bring ID tags and a marker, because in some cases we're going to go with whatever collar or harness the dog already has on. And if there's a way to do it, they have these quick release clips. This is a tag, if you can see it, has a little quick release clip that you can just clip right onto the collar he already has on, or the collar you brought along that's got somebody's phone number and name on it, or at least a phone number, because we're guarding with our lives this dog getting away from us. But if he does, it could still happen. And if somebody finds this dog, you want him to have some kind of ID on him that gets the person who finds him connected with an ESRA volunteer who can get that dog back, right? So there's other ways. If you don't have the quick release thing, you can use these, the little key ring things. That takes a little time. You probably have to take the collar off to do that. And then of course there's the ones like this that you need pliers to hook on. So you take the collar off and hook stuff on. Multiple IDs is really good. So even if you put a tag on, bring a marker. Sharpie. What would we do without Sharpies? So these nylon collars like this with the plastic buckles, or even metal buckles or whatever, are lovely for writing on with a marker. I'm not going to write on my beautiful pink collar right now, but you can see how you can write a phone number really big across here and even put a name. Put that on the dog, or take his collar off that he already has on and write on it, put it back on. A martingale collar, the nylon collars are really easy to write on. Some of the leather collars, if they're thick enough, you can write on. A braided collar, of course, isn't going to work. Harnesses. If the dog's wearing a harness, or if you have a harness, they're often made out of nylon too. Super easy to write on. Write phone number, write the phone number again, write a name, write all over that harness, and then clip a tag to his collar too, so that that dog has the best chance of getting back to ESRA if he happens to get away from you, which he's not going to, because we're going to prevent all that in just a minute. All right, so safety first. We don't want the dog running away, so we're always going to keep a hand on the leash. We don't want any injuries to the humans, to any dogs, and we don't want any behavioral damage. And remember, every experience affects his next experience. So the first thing you're going to do when you know you're going to take the dog is, while you're in an enclosed area, inside a building or a house, or at least inside a fenced backyard, and check the gates, make sure they're closed, keep the doors closed, and take the dog's collar off, put a new collar on, clip the tag on, write a phone number on the collar or on the harness. Whatever you're going to do, that's where you do it. Not when you have the dog out on a leash outside of an enclosed area, unless you have to. And then the big 3 safety rules. What are they? Y'all know these. The leash goes on before the dog comes out of anywhere, of a gate, of a door, of a crate. No face-to-face contact. You don't know this dog, and he's got a lot of triggers working stacked together right now. So also don't put your hand in the dog's mouth. We want him to succeed at all costs. Okay, so then after we've got safety taken care of, we're going to look at keeping the dog comfortable and starting to reduce his stress, and certainly not adding any more stress. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to make sure he gets to go to the bathroom when he needs to. Because that's a stressor. When you have a full bladder or you need to poop, that's a stressor. So, by the way, all of these guidelines I'm going to give you also apply to taking a foster dog or your own dog anywhere. I do these every time I take my dog somewhere. So with this new dog, remember, you don't know his habits, and you probably don't know when the last time he went to the bathroom was. You don't know how stressed he is, and stressed dogs sometimes need to go to the bathroom more often. You don't know if he has some kind of a medical issue. So ask him regularly along the way, do you need to pee? You need to poop? Let's go over here. Do you need to go potty? So before getting in the car, well, before he leaves where he is in the, enclosed area, if you can, before getting in the car, ask him again whether he went or not. If he just went, but you moved to the car, just ask him again. It doesn't hurt. When he gets out of the car, ask him, you need to go? You don't know. Maybe the vibrations of the car or the ride made him nervous and he needs to pee again. If he went, if he didn't, just ask him. He'll say yes or no. Give him a treat if he pees in the grass. You're house training him now. Another thing that's really important about potty breaks is that, again, transporters may be the first source of information we have. If you notice that this dog may have blood in his urine, or he's peeing really often, or he has diarrhea, for heaven's sakes, make a note of that and, let him get out more often and go to the bathroom, but that may indicate a medical problem that needs to be taken care of. So we need that information. Remember that potty breaks are also a good way to stretch your legs and take a break from riding in the car. If they're not really having a great time in the car, a break is a great thing. And every time you get the dog out and put him back in, remember, you can be practicing with him. This is how you get out, and this is how you get back in. So he's learning, and you're his teacher. And he's getting to have a potty break, and he's getting more and more comfortable along the way. That's what we're looking for. So in a minute, we're going to do some demos with Mr. Al here, who's playing with a squeaky toy. But again, I think, the minimum stuff that you want to bring along, I'm going to go ahead and move my chair out of the way so we can do that. We want to have more than one leash. We want to have, I'll just throw them all on the floor. You want to have a clip lead and a slip lead. Ideally, a couple of slip leads and a couple of clip leads. Why do you need so many? Well, here's why. Because you don't know which one you're going to need, and you may want to leave the leash on in the crate for various reasons. People always talk about, should we do that? Shouldn't we do that? There's so many pieces of that. Sorry, got the dry lip syndrome here. It's probably more comfortable for the dog overall to have the leash off, because think about it, if he moves around in the crate and he accidentally pulls on it, and then he's got something else to shuffle around in there. So, ideally it's better to have it off. But, if you have extra leashes and you want to leave it on him, leave it on him. But know that you don't know this dog, and he may just chew that leash right in half. So when you get to where you're going, you may not have that leash anymore. So you need an extra one, right? Always thinking ahead. The Boy Scouts have a great motto called "Be Prepared." Okay, leashes, collars, harnesses, etc. Thank you for getting all those things out, Al. All right, I already have Al all dressed up in a harness and a collar today, which gives us all kinds of opportunities for hooking stuff to him. So why don't can you go in here right now? Thank you, good job. Thanks, and you get a treat for that. All right, so let's pretend that we've gotten to where we're going, and we need to take take the dog out of one crate and put him in another car. So where did my dog go? Can you go back in there, please? Thank you. Okay, so the leash goes on before the dog comes out. Now, all the doors are open here, and, we're in the house, so pretend they're closed. So when I'm ready to put the leash on the dog to get him out, I'm not going to have the doors swinging wide open. I'm going to have it where I can block with my body, reach in, give him a treat, reach through the, I'll choose so slowly. Yes, that's a good boy. So then we put the leash on. A lot of slip leads have these little tightener deals, and this one is very kind of new. And so you have to slide that down. So now it's pretty secure. Even if you checked the collar and the harness, which you should have before you put the dog in to make sure it fits well, check again before you get him out. Stick your hand in there and make sure this is tight enough that it's not going to slip over his head. If you've used a clip lead on his collar, which, well, that's just going to take too long. Anyway, make sure you can, get 2 fingers under the collar so it's not too tight, but it's not so loose it's going to slide over their head. Make sure it's not stretchy or anything. Check that collar, make sure it doesn't have a worn place where it could break or the buckle's not working right or something, because you can't have that. And then check again when you go to get the dog out to move him. And then we've got the leash on, so now we can invite him out. You want to come out? Come on, yay, what a good dog. All right, so this crate is on the floor, so I just let him walk out. So we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so now we let him go to the bathroom, of course, because he just came out. We let him have a good time. We let him carry the leashes around. And then now we want to put him in our car. So we've simulated a crate in a car by lifting it up on this platform here. And now, my dear. So we're going to talk about, so let's first, we're going to walk with the dog on a loose leash. You did see it kind of tight here for a second, but I'm not using this leash to pull on the dog. I'm always going to invite the dog, come on, buddy, to come with me. Yay, come on, yay, let's go. And I'm going to offer him treats if he'll take them. And I'm not pulling on the leash. You've seen the leash skills video probably, and it just stresses dogs to pull on their leash. We want to invite them to come, but we're not going to let go of this leash. This leash is here to help us keep track of this dog. And Al will bring you all the leashes you want. All right, buddy. So if the dog is coming from a shelter, and you see, while I'm doing this, I'm holding the leash. Got the leash the whole time. So if the dog is coming from a shelter, he may be nasty and stinky, and I'm going to cover him with a towel so that when I pick him up to put him in the car, I don't get all nasty, right? So that's a thing. Have towels with you. So every step of the way, the dog gets a treat. See, I failed, so I'm not going to swing this around a dog I don't know. I'm going to do it super carefully. So we can position the dog's head so that it's over here and he's busy eating while we put this towel on him if we want to do that. I'm going to show you another towel thing in a minute. And then we're going to pick him up. I'm never letting go of this leash. I can put it over my wrist if I need to, but I've got it. So I'm going to secure his head. I'm not putting my face in his face to kiss him. Securing his head, lifting him up, nose in first, secure him so that he can get all 4 of his feet in before you let go. Don't just toss him in and let him scramble, of course. When he goes in, what does he get? A treat! Yay! You can already have treats in there for him to have if you want to. You can leave the leash on, close the gate. You can take the leash off. We're going to take it off because we're going to do a different thing next time. Yes, sir. Okay. Yay. All right, so now Yeah, let's take him out next. So now you've gotten where you want to be. And just for fun, we're going to use a clip lead this time. And we're going to position his head with the treat. I'm going to have several treats in my hand so I can have him eating those while I'm putting the leash on. I've checked the collar again. And then I need him to stand up, but I don't need him to come flying out before I'm ready. So I want to use this door and my body to block because I'm predicting that this dog is likely just to jump out. We'll talk about the dogs who don't do that in a minute. So come on, buddy. Yay. And then he gets up, but we're kind of blocking and we're saying, this is so good. So we're going to give you treats that way. If you need him to go back, what happened? Did something happen to your foot there? What's happening there? You can give them treats back here to keep them back through the bars until you're ready. Come on. You can give them treats there, but we can position their head anywhere we want. We can move them back with the treats. Just like if they're nervous and they don't want to come out, we can move them forward with the treats. Okay, come on, we're going to really get out this time. So now I've got them eating the treats, got the leash, securing their head, scooping them out, and we're out. Hey, what a dog. What a dog. What a dog, right? Okay. Jumping in and out. As you've seen, I'm always thinking about dogs' joints. Old dogs that already have arthritis and things. Young dogs whose joints aren't formed yet, and maybe they haven't had the best nutrition before they came into rescue, and they need more development. And so when you jump up into something, you're using your hips. Try it. So if you're like this and you're going to jump up, you feel your hips, especially if you're sitting down and you start to act like you're a dog and you're going to jump up, you feel your hips tighten up. So that's your hip joints. When you're coming out of a raised area and okay, I was just going to get in there for a minute. He's so cute, isn't he? So when you come out, you hit something hard, and what happens? Your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders get a jolt, sometimes your neck. So if you're an old dog, or if you're a dog that's sick, maybe you have Lyme disease, that affects your joints directly. But even if you just don't feel good, and then you add a little jolt to that and a little soreness, you don't need that. And little puppies don't need to be doing that. So it's always better to lift them if you can. Hi, are you chewing your leash? I know, you're so cute. Okay, so suppose, come here, come on, come here. I know, you're so adorable. All right, I'm gonna lift him again in case you missed it, watch. So under the neck, secure the head, got the leash, scoop out under the belly, and we're out. What if you have, okay, let's talk about those scared dogs for a minute. So there are times, ideally we're going to be able to just work with this dog a little bit, do a little training, make him happy, and have him go in. But there are times, come here, bud. Hey. There are times when we can skip a step. If they're so scared, but they like you okay, and they're liking some things, if we have to get them past a step, we can do the step for them. And that's going to involve, thank you, always holding on to the leash, never letting go of the leash. We've already made sure the collar or harness or whatever is nice and tight and not too tight. So we've got the dog. Because, stepping out of context again, it's not really out of context. If we're working on getting into the crate, getting into the car, whatever, if the dog starts to flail, if I started to pick the dog up and he started to flail, I would just set him back down and I've got the leash. Okay, stop, regroup, walk away, make a different plan. The dog's really not happy with this step. So we need to do something different because you never just keep doing the same thing hoping for a new result. We change something. So one of the things that we change, and this is a really easy one, if the dog's just really scared, but he's been okay with some of the steps, and maybe he's eaten some treats, maybe he hasn't. Just like when you're taking a horse out of a burning barn, you can carefully cover his head with a towel, still hold the leash, scoop him up under the neck. Hi, buddy. Still nose in first, feet, all the feet flat on the ground before you let go, and just pop that towel off, and you can close the door. Give him lots of treats, make it really happy. It's already happy because there's a soft bed. Yay, what, I didn't give you, I said give treats and I didn't give treats. I'm so bad. You can have 3 treats. Look at you. Okay, hang on there for a second. And you can just knock the towel off and leave it in the crate too, because who cares, right? We're not going to slam the door in his face, but it's a thing that can work. So once you get the dog into the crate and you're ready to go somewhere, one thing that is really helpful for many, 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 many dogs is to cover that crate. And in many cases, you'll want to have the cover on there before you even put the dog in. That's what I was going to say. If you've got a dog that's kind of scared to get in a crate, and let's turn this around, and you go ahead and cover it first before you pick him up and put him in, it can look way less scary to them. And it's worth a try. I mean, maybe it doesn't, but it's worth a try. So maybe that's another thing you can change. Put a towel over their face, cover the crate, put treats in. You already have the soft bedding. Put him in and go. However, I'm also going to throw in one of the things you need to bring with you is a helper, because you need to drive. You need to drive, and you need to have someone there to check on this dog, to observe how he's doing, to give him more treats, to give him more petting if he likes petting, to give him a new chew bone. We've brought, I got a chew. I got one of these trachea things for you to put in there. Make their ride happy. And that person can be checking. They can say, oh my gosh, he threw up. We need to stop and do a cleanup. So, and then remember, every time you get him out, you check all the things. Come on. And then you scoop him up and he's out, which is awesome. Yay. Thank you, buddy. Okay, go get lost for a minute. All right, so there's some demos for you. I just have, to finish up, I want to talk about, you saw me using treats to position the dog's head. And I want to do that outside of the crate so you can see it a little bit better. Because at a minimum, you need to be able to tell if a dog is calm and relaxed, or just being quiet and sleepy but calm, or is he shut down? And the difference between those is stiffness of body. It's a continuum. Super stiff and like shut down with his head in the corner and he's just like not moving. It's like this. Don't touch that dog. He's fragile. He's at a tipping point and we don't know which way he's going to go. If the dog is just relaxed and he's looking around, he's moving, the more he's moving, the softer his body is going to be. So that's a dog you can invite to do things. But there's a continuum between those. So, place this dog on the continuum and think about what plan you need to make. Come here, bud. So if you had a dog, stand. If you had a dog and he was in his crate and he's just standing there looking at you all stiff, which Al is not, he's wiggling and stuff. But suppose I don't know this dog and he's just staring at me and he seems kind of stiff and he's got his leash on, but the leash is under here and I don't want to, you have to leave it alone, but I don't want to reach toward this dog because he is stiff and he's, he's fragile in that moment. So if I need to get the leash, I can, hey, look at me. I can move his head over here, get the leash. Like I was showing you in the crate, you could even reach around and give the treat through the bars of the crate to move his head and then reach in and grab this leash. So even if the dog doesn't take the treat, he might smell it. So again, I'm going to reach around and then I'm just going to grab the leash. Now I have it and it's loose and I can say, come on, dog, up you go. And we can walk together, right? So think about how you can get the dog into the position you need him to be to get him to do what you want. So, I mean, the last thing I was going to talk about just briefly is I mentioned those dogs that are likely to come flying out of the crate before you're ready, and we're going to give them the treats back farther, use our body to block, keep the gate partially closed to get in there and do what we need to do, get them back, and then get them, position them where we need them to be so that we can pick them up and take them out. But then there's that dog that's curled up in the back of the crate, and he doesn't want to come out, and he's kind of stiff, and he's pretty miserable, and he just won't come out. So what are you going to do? The first thing you should do is just leave him there. It's important to recognize what the dogs are afraid of. So that's another piece of information you can share with your other transporters as you move down the path, or with the foster when the dog gets there. What does something seem to startle him? What scares him? What makes him happy? What makes him wiggle? Does he get wiggly if you say, "Oh, it's so silly, it's so silly"? You know, what are things that we know about this dog that can help? Dog's in the crate in the car, doesn't want to get out. If you're insistent, he's going to be resistant. So the first thing you want to do is say, you know what? You can stay in that crate. It's just fine, buddy. Just stay in there. I don't care. Get in the car with him if he likes you. So one of the hardest things I think for a lot of people about rescue is to recognize that you may be the monster. So dogs they don't inherently like people necessarily. So it's not like he likes you, but he just doesn't realize it. You might actually be a scary monster, and that's something that we need to help him change during his stay in the program at ESRA. So recognize that. And if you're the scary monster, then you have to be really careful how you approach. So Al is not scared, but he is lying down, so we can kind of pretend. So if I'm the one he's afraid of, then of course think about your approach. You're not going to go, "Hey, dog." That's not what you're going to do. Step back. I see you're scared of me. I'm going to go over here. I don't care about you. Present your side. Squat down. When I used to work at the shelter, I was really good at duck walking sideways. I probably can't do it that well right now. I can look at the dog over this way. And I can just reach a treat over without staring at him. I can even, if the crate is covered or I have the car here, I can hide back here so the dog can't really see me. And all he has to deal with is this much of me. And I can present that. Then maybe I can just peek at him and associate that with a treat. And in that way, I'm making myself literally smaller. There's only one little part of me to deal with. If he takes the treats, offer the treats. Smelling them can be a good thing to associate with. Eating them certainly is. Try it. I mean, it's all you got, so you got to try it. And then, okay, so maybe you're not the scary monster. If the dog likes people, just close his crate and go sit with him in the car. Bring him a bowl of water in his crate and say, you know what? We'll just sit here. I get it, man. You had a rough day. I'm going to hang out with you. Let him stay there. Then see what develops there. See if he starts to want to get out. You know, one of the worst case scenarios is if you can lift the crate out of the car, you can just bring it in to the foster's house and let him sit in there till he's ready to come out. Bring him some water. When he does come out, get him out to the bathroom. So the key is knowing what's the dog afraid of. You know, is he afraid of the leash or is he afraid of you? Or some other thing. You know, the big problem with this whole process is you are picking up dogs you know nothing about. And so your skills have to be impeccable so that you're ready to do what's necessary. If it doesn't work, do something else, have those plans A, B, C, D, and E in your back pocket and be ready to change to make sure this dog's new life is wonderful. So that's all I've got. And we will entertain your questions if you have any at this point. And you're done. Here, let's take your harness off. You don't need to have that on anymore. Yay! All right, I'm going to bring my chair back.
How would you get an aggressive dog in and out of the car?
Well, that's a loaded question. How would you get an aggressive dog in and out of a car crate? First of all, I'm not sure. I'm not sure you should get that dog. Wow. So that we have ways to do that. If the dog is threatening you, you probably want to put it back. Call a coordinator and make a new plan, because you don't want an aggressive dog in a box. You know that thing that you learned as a small child, never corner an animal? What are you doing when you put a dog in a box, or even when you put a dog loose in a car? You're limiting his escape routes, and it's just dangerous. If a dog threatens you when you go to pick it up, call the coordinator and turn around and leave. We got to make another plan. That's just all there is to it.
What are your suggestions for transferring from car to car? This happens on your highways.
Yeah, transferring from car to car. What are my suggestions? This happens often near highways. So that's a really good point. Choosing where to park to meet somebody. You know, ideally, we would park inside a fenced yard and close the gates with both cars in there, right? Well, that's not going to happen. I get that. But because you're out in the open, you have a lot of issues there. So when you've practiced, by the way, these standard processes of putting a dog in a crate, taking him out of a crate, and walking him from one crate to another, putting them in cars, then you're going to be ready, and you're going to have those plans A, B, C, D, and E ready for you to use. I guess, the number one thing, which I did demonstrate, is no leashes. There are no more leashes. You never let go of the leash. So notice that this leash is really short. It doesn't have to be this short, but I like them that way, simply because I can put this over my hand, and I can move with that dog, and I can hold it if I need to, but when I'm ready to pick the dog up, I've got him. Come here, bud. The leash is attached to the dog. I've got the leash over my hand. I can pick that dog up, and I'm not letting go of him. I've got the leash. If I drop him, if I have to set him down, I still have the leash, and then I can get it and I can move around. One of the problems with longer leashes is, they have their benefits, but a long leash like this, come here, Al. If I have this long leash, it's a 6 foot, and I've got it over my arm, and now, come here, come on. Now I'm picking him up. I got all this, it's all wrapped around his feet and stuff, so that's kind of a problem. But you know what? You could tie a knot in this leash and make it shorter. You can make it however long you want because it's nice and cottony and stuff. So choosing your leash, never letting go of your leash. You saw how much effort I went to make sure that the collar, the harness are intact. I put the leash on properly, and then I get the dog out. So let's look at, are we sending the leash with the dog, or Do we need to change leashes? If, don't put your leash on the dog in the crate. If the other person has their own leash, have the other person come, give you their leash, put that leash on. You should never be changing leashes out in a parking lot. You just shouldn't. Now, there is on our Achieving Forever video channel on YouTube, there is a video about receiving a dog from a shelter employee that talks about, if you need to change leashes, this is how you do it. Come here, Al. I have a leash on this dog. Come here, Al. I reach down, I put another leash on this dog. Look, I have 2 leashes. Dog's not free. So which one do I want to take off and leave? I just put this one on, so I'm going to take this one off now and leave it here. The dog was never off leash. He was not. I can do it with a slip lead. I can hold this leash. Again, leash goes on before the dog comes out. Before the dog comes out from under the other leash goes on. So if I want to put a slip lead on, I'm going to put that on. Now I have this leash, has a nice little loop. Come here, bud. I have 2 leashes. Yay, I've got them. And, oh, you want to keep your leash? Okay, there you go. Dog was never off leash. Oh, and then I move my little deal down to make it tight, right? You can do it with a harness. Ideally, you never change harnesses or collars out in a parking lot either, but same thing. I can put a harness. I could put 2 collars on him. I might be able to put 2 harnesses on him and hook the right one up and then switch it out, walk him around, get him back in the car. But I mean, the real key is don't let go of the leash. It's a skill set to just, I've got the leash, I've got it in this hand, now I've got it in this hand, I've got it over this wrist, I've got it everywhere. I'm not going to let go of it. It's not going to happen. So there you go. If you want to wrap it around your hand, be careful about that, but you can do that too. Okay, that probably covers that.
What do I do with a dog who is totally unhappy, created, but not safe to use in the car, especially if you have no help?
What do I do with a dog who's clearly unhappy, crated, and what about being, but not safe loose in the car? That's true. Especially when there's no helper with you. Can you let my dog out to pee? Okay, so number 1, I get it that you don't always have a helper. It's a really bad situation to be in. My best thing to think about would be bring a helper, because just for this problem, you've got a dog that you want to put in a crate, he hates the crate, and you have no helper. What are you going to do? What's he going to do in there? Is he going to scream in the crate? Is he going to claw at it and try to get out? Is he going to have a miserable time? And how long is he going to have to do that while you're driving? This is just the type of scenario that I was talking about what's going to happen the next time this dog needs to go in a crate or a car. You're creating a bad experience for him. You just are. Dog doesn't like the crate. Always better to put him in a crate. A crate is always the best choice. If you can, possibly cover the crate, make it wonderful for him, put a ton of food in there, have somebody sit there and feed him, that's going to be better than being loose in the car. The problem with being loose in the car is chances are he's going to jump over into the front seat, into your lap, mess up your driving, you're going to have a wreck, worst case. It's just a bad situation. Of course, there are harnesses that you can put on dogs to strap them to seat belts and so forth, but dogs need to be trained to be able to do that. If a dog is not very handleable, it's going to be pretty hard to get a harness on and put him in a seat belt where he's going to be comfortable. Yeah, you might get him there, but the next thing that happens is he's chewing the straps. He's miserable, he's clawing, he's having a terrible time there too. Tethering the dog in the car to putting the leash through the door and closing it, without another person, that dog could literally hang himself. If he doesn't, he's very likely to have a terrible time behaviorally. And that's why this is so important because, you know, the foster or the new owner now has to take the dog to the vet in the car. This is really, it's a really important step in this dog's life. And I mean, the answer to your specific question is dog hates the crate, dog hates the car, I don't have a helper. You're not prepared. You're not setting yourself up for success. You're not setting the dog up for success, but okay, you did it. Cram him in a crate, drive him to wherever you need to go and hope for the best. But I'm never a fan of hoping for the best. I'm a fan of preparing for success and having a good plan in place. So that's my answer to that one. And Derek walked out to get the dog in. And I don't know if we have another question, so let me look. Because I'm all alone. I don't have a helper right at the moment. Finish the answer. Okay. Okay, the next question is, how often do you need to stop with a puppy that's 8 weeks old? Wow. So, good question. So the rule of thumb is that the number of months old a puppy is plus 1 is how long you might be able to leave them without them going to the bathroom. So if you have an 8-week-old puppy, that's 2 months, plus 1 is 3. So that means you might be able to, under the best circumstances, leave them for 3 hours. Now, are these the best circumstances? No. So the answer is going to be you don't know, and that's a really great example of a situation where you need to be prepared to get them out to go to the bathroom or provide a way for them to pee and poop where they are. Now, you have another issue with an 8-week-old puppy. They're not fully vaccinated, and you have to be careful where you put them down. I and science are not believers in completely sterile environments with no exposure for puppies because we know that they've got to be socialized and they've got to be exposed to all the things that they are going to come in contact with in their lives by the time they're 4 months old. That's their critical period for socialization. At the same time, old school vets will say, no, keep them locked up and don't expose them to anything, anywhere where any dog could ever be. Lock them up. Don't let them see anything until they're fully vaccinated. Well, if they're rescue puppies, they may have not even had one shot. Nonetheless, their window for socialization is going to close between 3 and 4 months. We'll assume 4 months to be conservative. And it's really important. So when you stop to let the puppy go to the bathroom, don't go to the place by the gas station where all the other dogs are. Maybe you're going to pack some potty pads. That would be ideal. You can stop and even put them just on the concrete where it really looks like no dogs probably ever go. Set the puppy on the potty pad. A lot of times they'll just go on there. You can put them on the grass, and that keeps their feet off the grass. Carry them. If you do have to stop somewhere where there have been a lot of dogs, pick them up like at the vet. So when you take a small puppy to the vet, you carry them. If they have to pee, you set them down real quick. They pee, they poop, you pick them back up. Because where do the sick dogs go? To the vet. Where are the diseases that dogs can pick up? At the vet, in the grass outside the vet's office. So on a transport trip, there's lots of places you might stop that might have been frequented by dogs. So look for the ones that aren't, because it's not that we have to wrap these puppies in plastic and they don't touch anything. It's just that they can't be near where a sick dog was. So, for instance, if you can stop on the way at another ESRA volunteer's house where their dogs are not only vaccinated, but also not sick even if they're not vaccinated, if they're not sick, we know they're not having, bloody parvo diarrhea and they don't have distemper and stuff. Put them down there. Let them go to the bathroom there. That's a good choice. So it's not being around dogs. It's not being around where sick dogs are shedding their viruses that the puppies could get. So back to frequency. You don't know the frequency. Um, and with an 8-week-old puppy, depending on his background, he might just pee and poop on his bedding, and there's another reason to have 2 or 3 changes of bedding. But in best case, every hour, right? That would be a really good rule of thumb. Okay, so Derek says we have no more questions, which is great. It's also great if you did have more questions. I really appreciate all of you who are working so hard to volunteer, to foster, to transport, to do all the things that you do for ESRA. And, so that ESRA can achieve our mission of making lives better for rescued springers. And you work hard. And so my goal is to make your jobs easier by equipping you with the tools that you need, the habits, the routines, and the skills that you need to just know what to do, make it very efficient to do your jobs. So thank you, and we will see you next time.